Hey, real estate rock stars, it's Sarah Deno from Indiana. And today I am interviewing Harrison Sharp. He is an agent out of Dallas, Texas, and this is actually his second time on the show. Last time he was interviewed by Aaron, and to see the growth from that interview to today is actually pretty remarkable. He is investment heavy, working with investors. He has brought his brother in, and they have grew a team of over $100 million in sales. Really, starting as a new agent to now putting systems in place and figuring out how to monetize this business and how to win in a down market. There's lots of tips, so I can't wait for you guys to hear this one. All right, real estate rock stars, we have Harrison Sharp on the podcast today. Welcome, our friend from Dallas. Very cool. Harrison was on the podcast before, and I actually listened to it when I was at the gym today. So I did my homework. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So I thought your podcast was really interesting with Aaron. I'm also a former nurse practitioner and quit practicing for real estate. And I was listening to your podcast that you got your master's and actually took the CPA exam and then kind of dove into this. And, listening to your numbers, your first year going from 4 million to I think we left off at like 18 million to where
Yes.
you're at now. If you could just kind of bring us all up to speed, kind of that progression and how you got here. So super cool story and love to get a catch up from when we talked to you last time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it all happened really fast. And I would probably say the biggest reason for that is probably, working with, well, it's a myriad of reasons, right? Like you take care of people, you give them good advice. They're inherently going to refer you to more people. But a big piece of that too is just knowing the ins and outs of the investing space. There's some I guess some tricks and not tricks, but just ways that we've been able to kind of connect in the investing circle, especially in DFW with a whole myriad of investor clients, from fix and flips, rent by the room, co-living, um, land flippers. We run the gambit in terms of like the investing side. So that's probably, at this point, 40 to 50, probably 50 to 60% of our business. So that's really how we've kind of been able to take that next step. So, went from obviously around 4 million, 18 million in year two. Then we went 27 and 22 when during the height of all the, the aftermath of the COVID craziness. Took a little bit of a step back last year at 25 million. And then this year we had our best year ever, even though the market's been really, 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 really bad for a lot of people. So, and that's just kind of been a testament to, we take care of people. We try and give people good advice. We're hyper responsive. If it's a bad deal, if it's a bad property, we're going to tell you, no, don't buy it. Let's look at something else. So that's kind of generally been, I guess, the common theme. And then, obviously being in the investor space, because what I tell all new agents, right, is these investor clients, you get a retail buyer, they may transact, maybe once every 3 to 5 years if you're lucky. A lot of times they're not transacting super often, but you get these, you're able to identify a good property for a flipper and it makes money. And then, all right, well, they get done on it in, 3 to 4 months, they want to buy another one type thing. So it's the repeat transaction business that's been able to kind of help us sustain during this, I guess, slower time in the residential
Yeah.
market. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I'm also an investor, and I think that, having my own flips, I get so much more from that. Investors can be very time consuming. And I have found that my biggest issue is if I find the deal, I want to buy it. I don't want to give it to somebody else unless I'm GCing the deal and, being part of that. But if I can bring the capital and do the deal, that's my biggest thing. And, my business partner and I were actually talking on the phone this morning about, you have these investors and they want to send you houses 24/7 to evaluate. And I know that, having that financial CPA background, like that's money for you. Like that's got to be so valuable. But I know for the everyday agent, like just like anything else, it takes reps to, figure out these numbers and, the 70/30 rule and the 1% and all these rules that you try to gather together. Have you mastered like a evaluate a deal real quick, spit it out, yes or no? Like what's your turnaround with that?
yeah, I mean, I can pretty much tell you off the cuff after they send me like a listing or a property if it's going to make money or not. 99% of them, I'm like, nope, it's overpriced. And a lot of them trust me because of that built trust, right? Some of newer investors, obviously, you got to kind of build that trust. Maybe walk them through a few examples. Hey, here's why I'm saying no on this. Continue to send me properties, right? But I'm going to tell you in 2 seconds if it's going to make money or not. And then once you get something that, hey, maybe this makes sense. All right, let's do a full, kind of a full analysis on it, and maybe pick up on a little bit extra pieces that maybe the investor's missing, or here's what I would look at, reasons why you should or shouldn't buy, and kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive into that property.
Yeah.
So
I know you said early on, at least in your last podcast, you were a bigger pockets guy. Were you using their tools to evaluate those deals, or have you came up with your own algorithm spreadsheets? Like, how are you doing that?
yeah, just my own spreadsheets. I mean, the stuff they put out is great, obviously, but like for me, I don't need to really pay for that because I have my background is in financial planning and finance. So I've got my own spreadsheets and stuff like that I'm willing to put in for my clients and kind of share them, like, hey, here's what I'm looking at. Will it make sense? Will it not? Type thing. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
one of the things that I struggle with, or it did with the investors, is that they're going to go with any deal. So there's the loyalty isn't there as much as it sounds like you take care of your clients, and me too. Like it's not just transactional to me. This is a relationship all day long, and I think that it just gets really tough when they go with another deal because maybe you didn't bring that to them. Are you seeing with the change in the laws with buyer agency agreements that you have a little bit more loyalty there, or how are you managing that? Has that affected your business at all?
That actually hasn't really affected it too much. I probably shouldn't say this, out loud, but we're not really, we're obviously getting the buyer rep signed, but we're still operating under like of how we've always operated. Like we used to really not get them signed at all. Cause we didn't, I remember this very vividly. One of the first real estate agents I talked to, we got lunch one time and he brought all of his, he was a Keller Williams agent, great guy, whatever, nothing wrong with him, but he just brought all of his like paper, sign this, I just met you type thing. It's like, I don't want to lock myself into a 1 year agreement with you. So kind of our philosophy on that side of things has been, we're going to prove our value to you and make sure that you want to work with us, because if you go anywhere else, you're just going to come back type thing. So that's, we haven't really seen a big shift, since all the laws change. And honestly, what I was predicting and what I was telling a lot of people, what I thought would happen when everyone was freaking out, I was like, this is a really good thing for agents who have a good value proposition and can prove their value. Because there are a lot, I understand why the laws came out. There are a lot of agents who honestly weren't, they're getting paid 3% on a deal. And we saw it all the time in our transactions. Like, why did you just make that much money? You literally did absolutely nothing. We couldn't get a hold of you. You didn't do anything. We basically had to carry the entirety of the transaction. So for us, I think that's another big reason why we had our best year last year. You get all these agents kind of dropping off, who aren't making any money, aren't doing any deals. And there's a reason for that, right? They don't, there's just no value proposition there that they can't justify their.
Yeah, I think somebody can sniff out a professional pretty quickly with how you communicate, how you articulate things, if you're systemized, all those things. So I hear you saying we. So last time we talked to you, you were a solo agent, right?
Yes.
And so what's going
Yes.
on now? Do you have a team, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, so we've made pretty big changes, in terms of how we're trying to operate. Obviously, like doing the individual production is fantastic, but if you want to start scaling, kind of get to the next level, you got to start putting people in place around you, in order to do that. And that means taking things off your plate that maybe aren't a super high dollar value of your time, right? Like for me, the biggest thing that I have always struggled with is releasing control to other people, because I know that I'm going to do a better job than them. That's just how I operate. But at the same time, I can't do it all. So if I'm, spending an entire Saturday and Sunday showing houses, or doing transaction work, that's taking away from me being able to generate more business and help more people. So, kind of what we've implemented. Well, the first thing that I did this year was hire a full time, I guess, buyer's agent slash assistant. So I pay him a salary, flat salary, and then I basically pay him a percentage on all of the houses that he's showing from my buyers. So that frees up time for me to kind of maintain a lot more of these relationships that I've been just kind of letting go, because there's only so many hours in the day. So that kind of, I that was huge, and freeing up a lot of my time. So that was kind of happening concurrently. And my brother actually has his real estate license, same background as me, CPA. He saw, like, he's like, hey, you're doing really, really, really well, right? But you're not optimizing your time. You're not optimizing your processes. Like, nothing for me had been optimized. I was using Excel as a CRM and manually updating it. That takes time. manually following up with people, manually adding people to social media, doing my own social media content. So about halfway through last year, he saw that, that need. He's like, hey, I'm going to start, figuring out ways to optimize this. So he went all in on like the back end, like, all right, what are we going to start doing to kind of basically turn this from, all right, it's a decent sole prop company, like very, very small, to like, how do we actually grow like a legit sales team in business? So he came in, we implemented Follow Up Boss, got everything over in a new CRM. He started implementing all the systems and tagging systems so that automates a lot of it. We also hired a full-time VA recently, and she's been helping with all of our social media content. So he's been basically taking in all the back end operations, while I'm continuing to focus more on the sales side and growing some of our relationships, and going after some of these clients and type of basically repeat business, and just maintaining those relationships that we already have in place. So that's been step one, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to get that, or hire a full-time TC. That's another piece that we just implemented starting 1/1 of this year as well. That takes a lot
That's
of
a
back
game
and forth.
changer.
Yes, yes, and that's something I've been so hesitant to do. I don't know why. I don't know why I'd been hesitant to do it for so long.
I think that's the thing that, especially being the rainmaker, knowing that giving off that control is one, but also like, I think that if you realize the things that you just hate to do and you start delegating those, you just are lighter and you're in a better mindset. That was a huge shift in my business too. So let me ask you this, and this is something that I struggled with when starting a team. And I was the same way. Well, they want to work with me. We have the rapport, we have the friendship. How is that handoff to your buyer's agent? Are you like, hey, this is an extension of me? You're in a group chat, a text, or are you just hands off? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty integrated, right? So the way we have it structured right now is like, I'll do the buyer consult, I'll get them on the phone, do a Zoom or do a Google, whatever, just after the referral comes in, right? Once I go through like, the type of properties they're looking for, their criteria, kind of getting them set up on the MLS searches, put everyone in a group message. Hey, here's my full-time licensed buyer's assistant. He's just as good as me. He's honestly probably better at, showing houses than I am at this point. He knows what to look for. Um, if there are any issues or concerns that you guys have with him or anything, put it in the group message. Usually I'm the one handling kind of the communication piece, but obviously I can do that from anywhere. So that's a lot easier. So we'll put them in a group message. They'll basically get all the houses, scheduled, and showing if they have any questions that he can't answer. I always tell him to let me know that, and I'll jump in and do it. Once we get to the point of the contract piece, that's kind of where I take back over, obviously handling the negotiations, because that's one of the big like value add props as well. If you can start showing these clients how much you're saving them, and hey, this house had 4 or 5 offers, but we got locked it up because we were first in because of how responsive we are. Just showing them like your actual value adds. And then I'm basically getting them through the process. So essentially now it's like I get the inbound, I'm getting the inbound referral, I hand them off, especially on the buy side, to kind of the showing agent. And then I'll basically handle the negotiation, getting them under contract. And once that happens, I pass them back off to the back end TC to kind of finish it out. So that's kind of how we started, I guess, streamlining the process a little bit.
What splits are you doing on that?
So it's 90-10 right now. So I'll basically pay him 10%. So and all he's got to do is kind of show and schedule the houses. So
Yeah, that's something I struggled with at first because I was doing the buyer consultation. I was, setting the stage and doing all the things. And then at first we were doing 50-50, and it's like, oh, that it really hurts because you're like, man, I did all that. I'm okay with that if I'm not having to do all those things. But I think in the beginning, you really have to, and that's something I wish I would have known. I would have took a bigger split in the beginning because you're not realizing that you're training all this is a training. And eventually you want to get them to the spot where you're completely hands off and you trust them.
yes,
But that just takes some time and it takes
yes,
experiences. And no two deals are the same. You just
yes,
have to be creative and come up with some solutions. And sometimes it's hard to teach those things, because you got to think on the fly. I mean, that's our business. I've said 1,000 times, I just think we're a therapist. We're just
yes,
getting people through the emotions. The buying and selling is not the hard part. It's managing all the personalities for me.
yes.
So yeah. So tell me about, with the background in the CPA, how are you managing your finances? Are you using QuickBooks? Do you have a bookkeeper? Like, are you hands-on for all that? Because that's something that I really struggle with. It took me
Hmm.
a while to get a bookkeeper, and I cringe thinking about it. Like, I'll rain make all day, but when I have to get down to my P&L, I'm like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, no, I get that a lot of agents are like that. For me, I don't mind it actually. I'm using QuickBooks. So the way we have our entity structured, and again, my background in financial planning tremendously helped out in this. Me and my brother basically created a new entity. We have a partnership. Me and him are 50-50 owners. Under that, we each have S corps. Obviously, go into detail on the tax benefits of S corps, but you're saving on the employment taxes, the self-employment taxes, and then you can kind of structure it with your salaries and draws and all that for tax optimization. But yeah, we're just doing it ourselves right now because we're not, the transaction activity for us. We're not spending a lot on really, we don't have a lot of expenses. So it's the activity is minimal, but we're just, I'm just doing it once a month quick. Yeah, exactly. So just once a month QuickBooks. For now, as we start scaling, like, all right, we've got really big goals. We want to be the top selling team, want to be one of the top selling teams in DFW or even Texas. So once we start scaling, we're probably gonna have to hire a full-time bookkeeper or something just to kind of help with that. Because again, it's time that's going to be taking away from us bringing in additional revenue and business. So
Yeah. Are you still investing? I know you started out like house hacking. That's kind of how you got in the game initially, right? Are you still
yes,
doing any of that or flipping, or are you in that investment world?
Real estate rock stars, it's Sarah Denig. And today I'm telling you, the holidays are over. If you are still nursing that holiday hangover and your whole goal for the year was just survive this season, it's time to level up. Come join us March 4th through 6th in Austin, Texas. This is a life-changing experience where people are so open. They will share, you will increase your business. If you have goals and you want to execute, come join us. We are better together, and I cannot wait to see you guys. Take this chance on yourself. Trust me.
yeah, I am actually. I don't really seek it out, as often right now. But definitely. So last year, again, one of a big like tip that I have for agents, like newer agents who are kind of looking to get in the investment space, is network with wholesalers, right? Because that's one of our biggest lead sources right now is partnering with wholesalers because, all right, you have the conversation with them. They're obviously trying to get houses at a big discount and assign those contracts to flippers. So they're filtering through a lot of these leads, especially the bigger operations, right? But you're going to have a lot of conversations with people who maybe want retail or maybe their house isn't super distressed and it would be better listing. So we have those referral relationships in place with these companies to where they have, they're sending us these retail leads and we're trying to capture the listing. And then, in turn, it's helping them kind of offset their marketing expenses, basically by giving them, like a referral fee on it. So that's one
Yeah,
of our
because their
big, like,
marketing budget is insane, right? I mean, that's how they
yes.
get all of their We Buy Houses, like that whole deal.
Yes, yes, you're exactly right. So kind of that's a long lead
Say
into
that
yes,
again. Just kidding.
I'm still investing. But one of our big wholesale partners, he's never really flipped or wholesaled a property before. So we had two deals this year where he brought them to me. He's like, "Hey, I picked this up at a great price." And I'm like, "All right, let's talk about options. You can assign it, make 15 grand. We can clean it out, spend 2 grand and clean it out,
Hmm.
and then just list on MLS." And we ended up making a lot more money than that. I think one of them we made almost 50 on, another one we made around 40 on, just doing a simple wholesale play. So that's on the flipping side. I'm not really seeking those out, but if they come to me for funding, and then I funded those two deals as well. Like, so for him, like on his end, like he didn't really have much, had never done that before. I'd done it before. It's super easy. He didn't have to deal with a lender. Like it's just my money that we were dealing with, send it to the title company. Very easy for him. I'm obviously handling the listing as well. So it worked out great. That's kind of on the flipping side. Right now, I'm under contract on with another one of my big clients. He has around 200 doors in DFW, and a lot of them are like 2 to 4 units. But he's kind of been pivoting from that to Airbnb investing. So we're under contract on a 12 unit apartment complex in kind of an up and coming area in South Dallas called the Cedars. And our plan with that is to basically Airbnb the entire complex on it. For yeah, so that's kind of in the works. Hopefully we'll close on that next year. And then I'm just got finished building a container home in a smaller city in Texas that we have listed right now. So still involved in the investment space. And again, another piece to that goes kind of with the investors. If you're actually doing it and you know what to look for and actually in that world, they're going to inherently give you a lot more trust than some agent who just doesn't really actually do it themselves. So
Yeah. How'd you get into the container game? Do you know somebody, or how'd you
yeah,
take
we
that
met.
step?
Just networking. We met a builder who specifically builds these things, and me and another one of my buddies partner with him on it. We brought the cash to the deal. He built it at cost with no fee markup, and we just split it 50-50 on it. So it took a little bit longer and went a little bit over budget. It just, again, that happens. It just happens with builders. But it was at a low enough
It just
price
happens
point.
with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. And then we were kind of projecting interest rates to come down a little bit. They obviously haven't. So we haven't been able to sell it yet. I don't know if we'll be able to hit our exit number on it, but it was a cheap enough price point to where we have backup options. We'll convert it to an Airbnb and we'll be fine on it. We'll hit the 1% rule. So,
I think that's the
um,
beauty with the, real estate is, you take these risks, but hey, if that doesn't flip, doesn't rent it, Airbnb it long term,
yes,
there's options for everything. What's
yes.
really interesting, so we're here in Indiana, and the wholesalers I have found, when it gets to the MLS, the deal is there's no deal to be had. It's already
Hmm.
inflated.
Hmm.
I'm seeing that here locally with the wholesalers too. It still doesn't seem like a great deal. So I think that's interesting if you're able to get there before the wholesalers. Our biggest, win have been just, relationships. Someone wants us to come list a house. It's distress. Maybe somebody's in poor health and we just buy it, and that's kind of been our good luck streak of finding deals. But that's interesting that you're getting to the wholesalers before and able to help connect those dots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, again, it doesn't happen with all of them. Most of them are going to be like, we're just going to take it down if it's a really good deal. But we've got a few that are willing to partner with us and just figure out a creative solution for the sellers.
Yeah.
So,
So for the newer agents kind of getting into the game, with you starting house hacking and now you're here doing an apartment complex, Airbnb, that's amazing. What advice do you have for those agents, or what are some things that you've learned that you don't want everyone else to go through, or how could they benefit from some of this?
um, yeah, I would just double and triple check your numbers, especially if you're starting out. And the biggest piece of advice too is like you got to take action at some point. Like you get a lot of these, investors that are just forever analyzing deals and are never actually going to jump in. I saw actually one of my buddies who's an agent in Indianapolis. I saw an Instagram
Oh,
post on him. His name's Tyler Lingle. I don't know if you know him, but he
Tyler
runs a
who?
team. Tyler Lingle. He runs a team in Indianapolis.
Okay.
Um, but I saw a post that he made the other day on this. Actually, he's like, your first deal is not going to make you rich, but what it does is you're going to learn and you're going to get in the game. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice there. Second piece is finding someone in your market, an agent, maybe who has a lot of experience. You can run, all right, you think you found a good deal, send it to that agent who maybe you've developed a relationship with. All right, tell me all the negatives about this. What am I missing? Because they're going to know
Hmm.
stuff that you haven't seen because obviously you don't have any experience with it. So that I think those are probably my biggest pieces of advice. And then obviously just knowing the numbers. If you know the numbers in and out, you can talk about those. That's going to help tremendously, especially build that trust with your clients.
Yeah, I think data, if you can articulate your data, you're winning the game for sure.
Yes,
And that builds the trust, and then the relationship starts and you get a couple deals under your belt, and then, they tell their friends, and there's nobody else that they're going to work with except for you because you got them to the finish line. And so many of the times I think that just the unknown creates the anxiety, creates the paralysis analysis, and people just don't take action, but their money is in real estate, and you just have to be able to wrap your head around that, or put yourself in with somebody who you can trust.
exactly. And
uh,
another piece that goes into that too, real quick, before we change topics, I would say finding like a brokerage that supports investing and is like teaching and actively coaching it. Like the brokerage I'm at now, BK Real Estate in DFW. I mean, the lead broker, she started it 2 years ago. She's up to 100 agents now. And one of her core focuses is helping investors or helping agents become investors because, it can create long-term generational wealth. Plus the client side of it too is a huge benefit. So, a lot of brokerages kind of shy away from that because they don't, maybe it might be a liability thing. It might be, they just don't have really anyone there that understands it. But if you find a brokerage that is actively teaching that stuff, I think that can be a huge, huge value add. So, especially
yeah.
for a newer agent that doesn't maybe not know where to start or even where to find
Yeah,
these
I
type
mean,
of
I agree
agents.
with that 100%. We started our brokerage, and my business partner, both bought houses this year just to teach our brokers how to not put lipstick on a pig and how to do a luxury flip. And so part of our Real Estate Rockstars Mastermind, we have break off sessions throughout the year. And we went through, my last luxury flip and taught the numbers and this is how you evaluate the deal. And I think that is it. That is such a tip. I mean, and I've said this 1,000 times, but if you're in real estate and you're not investing, you're just working for a tip. And that's something that I learned through our Real Estate Rockstars Mastermind. And I think if you really take that seriously and you put in the reps and you evaluate 1,000 deals, eventually one's going to stick. And it's not going to be the first 10 deals. It's not going to be easy. It's just putting in those reps to really put pen to paper and see if it works out or not.
Exactly. Got to put in the time, got to put in the reps 100%, just like anything else.
Yeah. Are you guys a private brokerage then? Are you powered by a larger brokerage?
No. She started her own. She's boutique. She's looking to grow it. She has done a great job of growing it. Yeah. She's actually was on the podcast, I think, a few years ago as well. Her name's Brittany Kosef. But yeah,
cool.
She's doing some big things here too in the DFW community. So having that broker support is massive. So
yeah. So what's next for you? I mean, next time we talk in a couple years, I can't wait to hear, what hotels you're doing now.
Right now, me and my brother, and he's been a massive, massive, massive value add in kind of my head, where I'm thinking and how to allocate money, right? Like and just growth, right? Because I'm starting to realize, like, I used to have a confidence issue and just like, I don't, this doesn't make sense how I'm doing this, how it's all gone so fast. But he's like, we can create like a legitimate like business out of this to where we're growing and we're optimizing things and we're just getting better and better and better and better. So, kind of our goal this year is to really get our sales numbers up. We really, like I was saying earlier, we haven't spent any money. I haven't spent any money on advertising. Like it's all been word of mouth referrals, Sphere network. That can only get you so far in terms of production numbers. So kind of one of our biggest goals after Q1 of this year, we're getting all of our systems in place, getting everything fine tuned and kind of getting all the kinks worked out. Once that happens, we're going to start diving in and trying to figure out, all right, where can we start spending money in the advertising space in order to really start getting our numbers up. So what we're kind of thinking there, we have our TC right, or our admin right now is our VA hire. She's kind of been getting our Instagram page built out a little bit, but where we're going to really start heading, I think, is probably towards YouTube. Just creating, I don't know what the content will be yet, but it needs to be something that's going to capture attention, right? Because there are a lot of channels out there. All these agents, it may be just educational videos are just great, but that's not going to get you the volume you need to kind of get to the next level. So right now we're focusing on branding, really building out our reviews, building out, the personal aspect of it. And then once we kind of do that, we're really going to dive into figure out our next marketing channel. And it's probably going to be spending a significant amount of money on a YouTube account.
I think it would be really cool if you got a videographer and really documented the multi-unit Airbnb piece. I did a recent Airbnb here it's called Fountain Square in Indianapolis, and just the process of finding the niche. So we wanted it to be like boho chic. It was right before Taylor Swift came in town. Really wanted to get all the things, a full checklist of what exactly goes into an Airbnb, what items you need to have. And I think that if you did informational videos, like you have to have this many sets of sheets, you have to have this many, sets of everything, what amenities you need to have per unit. Because, you think about the avatar that's going to stay in a multi-unit and what that's close to, especially if it's up and coming, are they going to concerts or where is it at in the vicinity to the city? Just really thinking through that, I think would be really, really good content.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good point. Kind of back to that other client that I've got who started pivoting towards Airbnbs. I mean, he's got, just even information related to what he's doing. Like he's targeting a specific type of house in Dallas and a specific type of zoning classification that isn't affected by the Airbnb potential zoning regulations. And then also what he's doing is he's adding pools into these properties, which hardly any of the Airbnbs. So that's like a niche that he's identified.
Yeah.
And he's going all in on it because it's making like the premium on the revenue numbers is so much greater. So just going into detail on information like that obviously we have knowledge about, we just haven't given it back out to other people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Are they doing any carriage homes in your area, like adding to the back of the units to add more availability?
I don't see a ton of that. What I see, well, one strategy that I really love right now is kind of finding properties that have ADUs or like separate, how like essentially separate units on them. Usually you get a little bit better price, but I haven't really seen a ton of the extra square footage because
Yeah.
it's still pretty expensive to build and do add-ons right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think the moral of the story is there's 1,000 ways, to make this business work, and there's 1,000 different avenues you can go down. And I think the fact that you have found this like investment heavy, lane, there's riches and niches, and that's really cool that you're able to grow on that. So kudos to you for, taking it from last time we talked to you to where you're at now. It's pretty incredible.
thank you. Thank you.
Well, so good to talk to you. I would urge you should probably come see us at Real Estate Rockstars. I know that I think you were a bigger pockets guy. David Green is joining us as a host this year. He's
Oh,
going to be a
nice.
speaker. So we are pretty stacked and we're excited. So that's in Austin, Texas, March 4th through the 6th. Especially that you've been on this podcast twice now, you're like honorary. So let's go. All right. Any last comments, questions, remarks, anything else you want to tell the people?
I guess my biggest piece of advice is just you got to work hard. You got to put in the reps like we were talking about earlier. Full transparency, the market is absolutely brutal right now, especially if you're a new agent.
Mm-hmm.
This stat I saw recently, I think we're at a 35-year low in terms of transaction volume. Like we're basically right around '08 in terms of like number of deals across the nation. Like that's absolutely insane to me. And kind of the more we get into this thing, the more I think people are starting to realize interest rates may not be going down like we all thought they were. It might be a little bit of a longer period. So, you're new, you're getting into the industry, you can make it. A lot of people are dropping out, a lot of people are leaving, but that leaves a pretty big opportunity for those people that are still standing in order to kind of grab market share. So that's been one of our big mentalities and mindsets the last 2 years when these rates have been high and things aren't nearly as easy as they were. We're going to work 2-3 times as hard. Once we get on the other side of this thing, we're going to see hopefully a massive increase in our business just from the work that we've continued to put in when the market's slow or a little bit slower. So that's my biggest piece. Don't give up, keep fighting, keep working hard, keep taking care of your clients, keep giving them good advice. And it all comes back around. So
that's so true. My husband's a lender, so the Denick household is feeling that for sure.
Yeah.
One of the big things too that I think has been really cool is like, especially with ending out Q4, if you can take your clients to these new construction deals, a lot of the lender groups are buying down the rate. So even though rates are, sky high, you can get still 5.5% if you go with them. Which isn't great for the everyday lender like my husband. It's hard to compete with those deals, but there's still a way to get those deals. And also, if you can get into a neighborhood, new construction, usually the builder still owns it, so the HOA hasn't taken over yet. You can get a rental that's brand new. And if you get in at the beginning of a neighborhood, I think there's so much value there because you have all the warranties. You make it a rental from the get-go. You're betting your risk against the roof and the HVAC and all that going to crap. And you can, maybe get some equity into that deal. So that's what I'm kind of telling my investor clients right now too, is kind of look at new construction, take a look.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Cause you're exactly right. Like the cost, the cost of existing homes and new builds, it's usually way over for existing. And that's starting to hit like the inflection point. And, like you said, these builders offering crazy incentives. You find a good neighborhood where the HOA allows it, you're going to be able to offset a lot of your big CapEx costs versus buying a house built in the 70s or 80s that you
can talk them into a basement.
Yeah.
You can talk them into all kinds of stuff. So I think that's a really good, great deal.
Yeah.
So are your clients mostly all investors? Or are you still working with the everyday buyer seller? Is that
No,
still a
we're
big chunk
still
of your
doing,
business?
yeah, we're still doing everyday buyer sellers. It's probably about 50% retail, 50% investors. So we're still doing a decent amount of just normal retail stuff. So we don't, that's another thing too. Another, I guess, piece of advice I have for other agents. Like you get these agents that want to be hyper specialized in one specific area of real estate. When you're starting out, you should be literally trying to take on everything you can and learning about as much as possible. We don't really deny any type of client. Like we do land, we do commercial, we do single family, we do 2 to 4s. Like we'll do anything, whether it's $30,000 or a million. So we're kind of doing everything. So we've got a very, very diverse, um, I guess, sale. We've got a very diverse product in what we're selling. So we
Yeah.
can hit everything.
I agree. I think don't put your ego, there's no room for it. If somebody needs to find a rental, you help them find that rental. And I've
Yes.
had that turn into $1 million transactions later. So you just never know. One
Yes.
of the big things, you talking about starting to put your money into marketing. And there's all kinds of different rules like 10%, those
Mm-hmm.
type of things. One of the things that's really been working for us is we do a lot of client events. So we rent out the movie theater. We'll rent out, we just had a Santa event and we have Santa come and then we get pictures and we make ornaments out of that. Pies during Thanksgiving, just something to stay in touch. Even if you don't have a huge budget, take your top 10, your top 20. And I love Amazon Prime. I have all my clients on Amazon Prime. Even if you just send a dish towel or some soap or just something
Yeah.
that makes somebody think, let them know that you're thinking about them. And I will give you my biggest, my cheapest and best um, ROI this year was we send out birthday cards. So my assistant gets on Facebook and we look up every single person's birthday that month. She puts it into a spreadsheet and she sends it to me. I edit it and then we send birthday cards and handwritten birthday cards. And
Handwritten.
it's
Yeah.
so cheap. And I cannot tell you the social media shout outs that I get from people. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. And it's just, it's 60 cents. Like
Yeah.
it's those are the little things that if you don't have a lot of money, invest in. HomeBot is another great tidbit, and usually if
Yes.
you pair with a lender, they'll pay for half, so it's $25 a month. And every month, I think I have an 89% click rate, and people want to know what their house is worth. There's all kinds of cool stuff. I think today in our inbox we had 5 people who wanted a market analysis. Just to see, because people are always having another baby, divorcing, the death. There's always room for
Mm-hmm.
real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's slow, I think that the cockroaches we're going to get through. You got to keep your eye on the prize. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups where I see a lot of people asking about side gigs, and my thought is always like, double down on your business. Don't get
Yes.
distracted. This is
Yes.
not the time to get distracted. This is the time to put in the work, be the mayor, let everybody know you're in real estate, and organically that's going to happen. So
Yes.
I just think there's just such a creative way to do things and stay on top. It just, you have to get uncomfortable, and that's the only way you're going to win. It's not easy. If it was easy,
Mm-hmm.
everybody would do it. And 90% of people wouldn't get out their first year.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. I kind of love the point of doubling down on what's working. We've got that same mindset. Like, we figure out what works. And then instead of trying to 3 or 4 other channels and go out, we're just going to keep hammering that,
Mm-hmm.
that marketing channel. If it's working, why change it? Just double down on that and just keep going after it. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So yeah, really cool. Lots of great stuff. I think that, our listeners are really going to take a lot from today's interview. So it's really cool to listen to your interview this morning in the gym and now be having this conversation. So
Yeah. Yeah.
happy Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
thank you so much for joining us.
yeah, appreciate you guys having me on again. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, we're always, one thing too that we really hammer home is we're always wanting to help people out. So, you have any questions about anything you're doing, I'm pretty responsive on Instagram. Just shoot me a
Yeah.
DM. I'll
And
get
how do
back
the
to you.
listeners
So,
find you?
my real estate handle is harrison.sharp.realestate. I'm usually pretty active on Instagram, but Facebook, Harrison Sharp, you can message me on there, LinkedIn as well.
And we'll be looking for that YouTube channel to come.
Hopefully we get it started sooner rather than later. So,
I've got goals. All right. Well, so nice to talk to you, and real estate rock stars. Have a great day.